12th Man Podcast. Let's talk sports. Let's go. The 12th Man Podcast.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Coach Dub coming to you live from beautiful College Station, Texas, with your 12th Man Podcast as we get ready to start off year 4 in the Brothers in Arms Elite Football League Dynasty. Looking now at our top 25 rankings, fellas, we got Miami with 43 votes coming in at number 1 with a 99 overall team. In second place, it's last year's Natty winner, Florida, with 22 first place votes. And coming in third place is Penn State with 1 first place vote. Alabama, USC, Clemson, Oregon, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Ohio State round out the top 10. And falling just outside the top 10, we've got Texas at 11, Georgia Tech at 12, Texas A&M at 13, Pitt at 14, Michigan at 15, UCF coming in at number 16, and Ole Miss rounds out the top 17, which is all users. So as we get ready to jump into our next season, we're going to take a look real quick at some preseason All-Americans. This list is dominated by users. Preseason first team, C.J. Carr used to be at Notre Dame, is now at Ohio State. He is your first team quarterback All-American preseason voting. You got Kedron Young of Notre Dame at running back. Rashad Khaled at Penn State at running back. Wide receiver James Batty at Notre Dame. Wide receiver Devin Sampson at Alabama. And wide receiver Matthew Oten at Ohio State. And Andrew Olish as tight end for Penn State. Nobody really cares about offensive linemen, so we're going to skip that. Now we're going to take a look right now at the Heisman favorites already in the beginning of this season. Right now your Heisman favorite is Notre Dame halfback Kedron Young, who, folks, if you look at his stats, has not even had 400 yards rushing in his career. I believe he's only had like 73 carries. Quarterback Jerron Kiwi, I'm not even going to try to say that last name, of USC, is coming in at second place on the Heisman, and quarterback Tavion St. Clair of Ole Miss is third place, while wide receiver Geckel Baker of TCU is in the fourth spot, and Winston Watkins Jr. of Ole Miss, the running back, comes in at number 5. There's a lot of people left off that list that could be definite game changers on the season. We're going to jump in there right now. Quarterback for Texas A&M is undecided, but at running back, we got senior redshirt Tyshawn King. He should be in the Heisman vote. You better keep an eye on him because Texas A&M likes to throw them halfback short out of the backfield, and they also like to run the ball. Bo Jackson is back, as well as Derek McFall, who were also almost averaging 100 yards a game last season behind last year's Heisman winner, Pringle Jr. Let's take a look at some other teams real quick. We're going to get into that too. Let's go over to Florida. We're going to look at some players from the Florida offense because they got some guys that could be game changers too this season. Nothing going on at quarterback. We're going to jump over here. This is the guy to watch for. Jaden Scott, senior redshirt running back for Florida Gators. He's got 93 speed. He's an 88 overall halfback, but they do the same thing. They really like to throw to the running back, and they like to run the ball out there in the swamp. So keep an eye on Jaden Scott for a Heisman. I'm sure there's a lot of other people that got some players that could be Heisman hopefuls too. But let's jump in real quick. I'm going to do a little bit of a schedule preview for the season. We're going to jump in there, and we're going to start with Alabama. Alabama's got Oklahoma State in week 1. Their first big game is going to come in week 4 against the Oklahoma Sooners, who are currently ranked number 9. That's going to be a top 10 matchup, folks, as neither one of them is undefeated when we get to week 4. Jumping down to Arizona State, their first test will be Ole Miss in week 5, who's currently ranked number 17. And then they've got Clemson. If Clemson has the type of season they continue having in week 10, will also be a good game for your Arizona State Sun Devils. Jumping over to Arkansas. Arkansas is week 11 and week 12 are currently against number 2 Florida and number 4 Alabama. Then they got number 1 Miami in week 9. But their first matchup will come in week 5 and week 6 against UCF and Texas, respectfully. Auburn's biggest matchup is going to come in Week 9 versus number 13 Texas A&M, and Week 13 versus number 4 Alabama. Baylor's got a relatively easy schedule until they get to Texas A&M in Week 13. UCF is going to have a tough go of it. Their Week 1 game against number 9 Oklahoma will tell you how their season is going to go. Now we take a look at Clemson. Clemson does not have a ranked opponent until Week 5 and Week 6, where they'll have to play Ole Miss. And then in Week 8, they've got number 12, Georgia Tech. We'll see if the new coach at Georgia Tech can keep the Yellow Jackets rolling the way they have in the last couple seasons. Now we're taking a look at number 2, Florida. Week 2, number 9, Oklahoma. Week 3, number 11, Texas. But the real test will be Week 7 against number 1, Miami. Florida State will get Georgia in Week 3, number 14, Pitt in Week 6, and Clemson in Week 7, who's currently ranked number 6. That'll be a good test of Florida State early on in the season as they face Georgia and Tennessee before they get to new user Pittsburgh and OG Clemson. Looking at Georgia's schedule, he's got Florida State, number 6 Clemson. He's got the new user in Week 7, Pittsburgh. But he's got Week 10, he gets to play against Florida, and in Week 11 he gets Ole Miss, and then new user Georgia Tech to round out his season in Week 13. Georgia Tech's first real test is going to come in Week 2 versus number 17 Ole Miss, and Week 5 versus number 14 Pittsburgh. LSU, as always, with the tough schedule. Their first test will come in Week 5 against number 2 Florida, and in Week 7 against number 4 Alabama. And then it doesn't get any easier as they've got number 9 Oklahoma, number 11 Texas, and back to weeks in Week 9 and Week 10. And they round out their season Week 13 with number 1 Miami. Now we jump over to Miami. Their first real test is going to come in Week 2 versus number 11 Texas. Get down to Week 6 and 7, they'll have number 9 Oklahoma and number 2 Florida. Michigan in Week 1 gets a real test as they have to face conference opponent Notre Dame, who's been a powerhouse over the last 3 seasons. Then they turn around in Week 3 and they have to go play at number 3 Penn State, so it doesn't get any easier for them. And then down there in Week 8 they get USC at home. And number 7 Oregon at Oregon in Week 10. Now we're going to look at Notre Dame's schedule real quick. They got number 15 Michigan in Week 1. They've got number 10 Ohio State in Week 5 at Ohio State. And then in Week 6 they've got at number 7 Oregon. And then they turn around in Week 9. They've got at number 3 Penn State. And then at least they get USC at home in Week 13. Really tough matchups there for him. Ohio State's first big matchup is going to come Week 5 versus number 8 Notre Dame, and then in Week 7 at number 3 Penn State. Now we get down to Oklahoma. Oklahoma will have a test against UCF early on in Week 1, and Week 2 will be the Florida game. Good luck to them in that one. Florida has been cooking, but Oklahoma Sooners do not write him off, folks. This guy is probably one of the best users that we have in the league, and people sleep on him all the time, but he is picking it up, and he is putting the foot to the pedal, and he's turned up the gas. He has really turned it on in the last 2 seasons. Do not count the Oklahoma Sooners out this season. Now we jump over to Ole Miss. He's got number 12 Georgia Tech in Week 2 and number 14 Pittsburgh in Week 3. He's now moved into the user conferences and he's ready to go. Do not count him out because this boy will run the ball down your throat. He'll break the pocket. He'll throw. He'll do everything there is. He'll blitz. He'll run man. You never know what you're going to get from the Ole Miss Rebels. Oregon. First big test is going to be Week 5 at number 3 Penn State, and then Week 6 at home against Notre Dame. Penn State should also be cooking as he gets number 15 Michigan at home, and then he has to go to number 5 USC in Week 4, which will be their first big matchup, and their next big matchup will be the Oregon game in Week 5 at home. Pittsburgh, new user, gets to place an OG user, Ole Miss in Week 3. That'll be a good matchup. It'll tell the tale, and we'll learn a lot about the Pitt user in that game. Now we're going to jump over to Tennessee. Their first big game is going to be Week 2 versus number 6 Clemson. And then as we get down Week 6 and 7, it'll be big games too against Georgia Tech and Ole Miss. Texas has their big test, like we said, week 2 against number 1 Miami, and then week 3 versus Florida. Those are going to be tough games for them because it doesn't get any easier. As in week number 5, they get number 4 Alabama, and week 7 they got the Red River rivalry versus number 9 Oklahoma. Texas A&M's first big matchup is going to be again week number 9 versus Auburn, and week 13 versus Baylor. UCLA, their first big game is going to come in week 6 at Ohio State and week 7 at Oregon. USC, their first big game, like we said, is going to be week 4 at home against number 3 Penn State. The Washington Users, their first big game is going to be week 6 at home against Penn State. Weeks 8 and weeks 9, they will be on the road at Notre Dame and USC, respectively. And that is a little bit of a look at your conference schedules for the season. I know this isn't like our normal podcast. It's a little bit different, but hopefully we can do something like this and we can make it work and we can make it stand out. As of right now, folks, get your rewards done. Get ready to play some football because this is Coach Dub signing off.